उञो त आब घुरे, उञो त आब घुरे, बुख्यो त ताम, इहो आमिन संदो आम, खासने मंझा न थे। उञो त आब घुरे, बुख्यो त ताम, इहो आमिन संदो आम, खासने मंझा न थे। This is a 2 lines verse, and I have quoted this 2 lines verse from the bulky book of poetry by great Sindhi poet, international Sindhi poet, world renowned Sindhi poet, Hazrat Shah Abdul Latif Bhittai's poetry book called Shah Jo Risalo. The Risalo consists of 30 long and short melodies, usually in local language, in indigenous language called as sur. In English we call it melody. As always, for your proper understanding, I render its simple English meaning or call it a translation for you. Unyo ta aab ghure. A thirsty man will demand for water. Bukhyo ta tam, a hungry man will demand for food to satiate his hunger. Iyo amin sando am. This is a kind of a practice, this is a kind of a life lived by ordinary people. Khasa ne manjhan nathe. Great people, people who see life beyond the ordinary situations, beyond the ordinary needs of life. They don't live such a life. It is not life, the life of those people who are scholars, who are knowledgeable, learned men. They don't live only for drinking and eating in this world. Unyo ta aab ghure, bukhyo ta tam, iyo amin sando am, khasan manjha na the. Benjamin Franklin is one of the great names. He once remarked, there are 2 kinds of people we find in the world. One who eat and drink to live. The people whose sole purpose of life is drinking, eating, drinking famous beverages, cold drinks, and eating favorite delicious food. यह तो पर जानवर वाली जिंदगी थी. जानवर भी ये करना है. They wake up, they drink, they eat. Animals also do the same things. They wake up, they drink, they eat, they sleep. The next day, they also wake up, drink, eat, then again they sleep. Unyo ta aab ghure, bukhyo ta tam. The life of a thirsty man is limited. Why? Because his life is subjected to the quenching of his thirst. Once, if the thirst is quenched, life loses the significance. And hungry man, once the food is served, the food is satiated, life loses the meaning. Unyo ta aab ghure, bukhyo ta tam, iyo amin sando am, khasan manjana de. This kind of a principle to live life is common people do this. Common people are only fond of eating, fond of drinking. Even take example from journal life. You attend a wedding party. If you ever invited somewhere, you could observe, and this might have come in your observation, how people rush to the food. How like animals they behave. There is no sense of civility. When they eat, they drink. Animals do the same thing. Iyo amin sando am. This kind of a practice, this kind of a habit, this kind of a culture, this kind of a way of living is adopted by common people. Common people desire to fulfill their physical needs of the body. But man is an exalted creature. He does not simply need to fulfill his physical needs of the body. Amin sandoam. This kind of a trait of personality or this kind of a habit is of those who are common people. What do khas people do? Important people do? Khasan manjana the. What khas people, important people don't do? They don't live for worldly desires. They don't live for fulfillment of physical needs of the body, i.e. water, food, sumptuous food. They live beyond the ordinary ways of living lived by the common people. Khasan manjanati. What khas people do? What important people do? To them, fulfillment of spiritual thirst and quest is also important. They want to be spiritually blessed. They want to be spiritually happy. That's why unyo ta aap ghure, bhukhyo ta tam, iyo amin sando am khasan manjanathe. You might have heard about Imam Ghazali, the great Muslim philosopher. Imam Ghazali divided humankind, we people, human beings, into three categories. The first are called Awamul Nas, the commoners, common people. Every day, to them, fulfillment of everyday needs of life is important. In the morning time, they will wake up, they will search for the livelihood, they will bring the livelihood, food, some beverages if they can afford for their family, eat, drink, sleep. The next day their struggle continues. Our common people's life is limited only to the fulfillment of everyday needs of life. I reiterate this, but I feel it very relevant. Imam Ghazali said that some people are common. The one category are kinds of people, one kind of a people, the one category are the kind of persons, or they are common people, the commoners. The second are khawas, partly evolved, partly mature people. They think somehow different from common people. The third are called khasul khas. The third are called khasul khas, the important, among the important people, the elite. Now, what I understood from this couplet, I have been sharing my views for the last 5 minutes. Unyo ta aab ghure, bhukhyo ta tam, iyo amin sando am khasan manjanathe. Our life is not simply to wake up in the morning and start demanding for the tea. Often people in the morning time, they wake up, they don't even wash face, wash mouth. They demand for tea because it's their favorite beverage, favorite drink. And they take it, they eat. Even they eat their favorite breakfast in the morning time. And they eat the things which they desire to be in breakfast list. So unyo ta aab ghure, bhukhyo ta tam, iyo amin sando am khasan manjanathe. The second thing is, we should not be lusty. We should not develop the greed element among ourselves. When you desire for worldly objects, the greed factor is inevitable in your life. You will be greedy. Today, you need this kind of a food or a drink, your favorite drink. Tomorrow, you will demand for more. The worldly life is so charming that it will not allow you to live a spiritual life. And this great poet Shah Abdul Latif is instructing all of us, telling us, Unyo ta'ab ghure. A thirsty man demands for water. And remember, once you drink water, your thirst is quenched. Imagine the time, imagine the very feeling, imagine the very state of your mind before the quenching of your thirst. How restless you were. Imagine the time when you were hungry and before the fulfillment of your hunger, how were you feeling restless? Feeling uneasy. Latif is saying, live such a life. Because when you feel uneasy, you feel restless, your struggle continues. When you are thirsty, you will struggle to have water. When you are hungry, you will struggle to have food. But once you drink water, you will stop struggling. Once you ate food, you will stop struggling and you will sleep like animal. Unyo ta'ab ghure, bhukhyo ta'tam. So what should we do all to become khas, to become important? It is, if you drink water, also serve somebody else too. If you eat food, also serve those who need it, who are hungry, who live among you. How can you become khas? When you don't think about worldly objects, worldly desires, and the craze to fulfill them. You have to also think about your spiritual happiness and bliss. You don't have to think about your only worldly pleasures and bodily pleasures. You have to think about spiritual bliss. It is called in philosophy, do you know what it is called? If you are every time hungry and greedy for worldly objects and things, and you want to drink favorite drinks, you want to eat favorite dishes, do you know what do philosophers say this? Hedonism. Philosophers have coined the term hedonism. Hedonism means live for pleasure only. Live for the pleasure of this world only. Only your pleasure in life is more important. Only the fulfillment of your thirst in life is more important. Only the fulfillment of your hunger is more important. And the person who does this, she is called hedonist. But Latif's message is contrary to it. Latif says, don't be hedonist. Don't be every time pleasure seeking person. Every time seeking for the worldly pleasures, seeking for the worldly things and the needs. Unyo ta'ab ghure, bhukhyo ta'tam. A thirsty man's life is limited only the need of the water. Bhukhyo ta'tam. A hungry man's life is limited only to the fulfillment of hunger. Iyo amin sandoam. This everybody does. It is a life lived by everyone. It is the practice done by everyone, every common man in the society. It is the culture of every common man to demonstrate in the society. Khasan manjanate. Important people don't live such a life. Hedonistic life, living for pleasure, living for fulfillment of hunger, living for fulfillment of thirst, living for personal gains and personal pleasures. In the end, I would recite this verse, then we would conclude our session. Onyo ta aap khure, bukhyo ta tam, piyu amin sandoam, khasan manjanathe. My name is Professor Muneer Domki, and today we shed a light on this important couplet from the bulky book of poetry of the great Sindhi poet Hazrat Shah Abdul Bhittai, from his song Surasa and tale number 4. Today this session is over, class is over, and one day life would be over.